Women's FIDE Grand Prix Series being played in Khanty-Mansi, Russia from April 7th to April 22nd, 2014. I don't think the women get nearly enough credit that they deserve. This is one of the Grand Prix series of tournaments leading up to the challenger for the current Women's World Champion. Great chess. Don't miss any of this action. Hi folks, John Cordisco back again with another chess video for you. Another game from round 7. Women's FIDE Grand Prix 2014. Batchimeg from Mongolia as white and Muminova as black. Interesting game. It's a decisive result. Let's get to it. Knight f6. It's going to be a Nimzo Indian. You see that from the bishop to b4. Bishop, pawn, a3. Oddly enough, already on move 6, bishop takes. Black has a tiny advantage, which is not really saying well for white to be just a minute and not even equal on move 6. B takes, D takes, bishop takes, c5. Going right after the pawn immediately. We all see if pawn takes, that's really bad, because after queen takes, king takes, you're going to have double pawns here, and you're going to be impossible to defend, and you're going to have the a pawn that's isolated as well. So knight f3, just develop your pieces. Not much danger of the bishop coming out right away and pinning it because of the pawns in the way. So that's, I think white's crawling back, which is kind of sad on move 9. Queen, bishop comes back. b6. It's like black wants to fiend kettle the bishop on b7. White castles. Knight. Bishop. I think white's hoping for this paired up bishops to come down and cause some grief later for black on the king position. Bishop a6. Hitting the rook. Rook e1. Knight to a5. Kind of an odd spot for that knight, but I think what black wants to do is go bishop here, and then after bishop takes, knight comes in. That's a good spot for that knight. Nothing can chase it off except for the other knight. e4, bishop, bishop b1. Now the problem is with not taking it, you're going to leave a good knight there when the knight retakes, but that bishop's a strong bishop too. That's in a good spot. How are you going to get rid of him? Knight b3, hitting the rook. Not much really white can do to save the exchange here. e5, hitting the knight. If knight had gone to d2 instead, knight takes, queen takes, rook a to d8. After e5, knight to d5. Knight goes to d2. Now, not as good. Knight takes. Not as good as knight takes the rook, because after knight takes, c takes, queen to d3, and that knight can't get out. After knight takes d2, queen takes, f5. So white dodged the bullet on losing the exchange. E takes, en passant, rook takes. I know the f-pawn is gone for black, but with this bishop here, and this knight looming in the queen, and the rook, I'm a little iffy on black's, excuse me, white's king position. Bishop e4. It's like white's trying to trade off some attacking pieces. Rook, f3. Tiny advantage for black now, but it's a little hard to play as white. White's bishop on b2 is basically buried. Worthless piece right now. Rook to h6. Here comes the rook. g3. Try to blunt the queen coming in. Knight f6. Here comes the knight around. Backs the bishop up. Bishop to d5. Now I think this is where white makes her major mistake. Even though I got to say on interviews, Batchimeg from Mongolia, I've seen her on some interviews and press conferences, is very nice. She's very articulate. She's classy. She's smart. Her English is probably better than mine, and I'm an American. She's not having a very good tournament. I believe she has 2 draws out of 6 games. So this is a big disappointment for her. I think she wants to do well, but unfortunately, I think the pressure might have gotten to her. She went rook to f1, and immediately the score goes up for black, almost 5 points. The best chance she had, I think, was rook to e3, and after c4, bishop f1. Tiny advantage for black. It's hard to play, but I think she can hold it. But after rook to f1, you can see the move coming up here that really does a lot of damage. It's hard to see at first. Knight to g4, a deflection move. Queen to g5. If she had taken, queen takes check. And if pawn takes, rook mates. I think she might have missed that. That knight's in a bad spot. Knight takes the pawn. f4. I don't think queen to e5 would have helped much. Trade of queens. Knight takes check. King to f2. And c4. It's a disaster for white. After f4, knight takes the rook. Rook takes. Rook to h1 check. King has to come up. Rook to h2. And that's where the Batchimeg from Mongolia as white resigned. After rook to h2, king moves, and she takes the bishop. Now you're a full rook and a pawn up. It's a disaster. I felt bad for her. I watched it on the website. You can tell she was just incredibly disappointed. And that's the way it goes sometimes. She seems not to be a very emotional person. She's very calm and collected, and I think inside she was just dying. And I felt really bad for her because she's a really good player, and she's really smart, and I think she deserved to do a little better so far. But we'll see how she does in the next few games. Anyway, folks, that's another game from round 7, Women's FIDE Grand Prix. I want to thank all my new subscribers. Thank you very, very much. And if you haven't subscribed, please do. And I want you all to remember, if you think chess is just a game, you're not playing it right. Take care, folks. Bye-bye.